Hello, everybody. It's 6 o'clock on Wednesday night, the last day of March. Tomorrow's April Fool's Day. And I'm excited to have so many people on this call tonight. Wow, I'm really surprised. I see a lot of names that I recognize, a lot of our existing clients, and I see a lot of new names on there as well. And, you know, hey, at Winston and Companies, we are all about working with our clients and trying to help spread the gospel of financial planning and doing things the right way. You know, we're a small family-run firm, and there's definitely a difference between the way we do things and a lot of the big main wirehouses. So we're a holistic planning firm, and you know, we're kind of developed into a one-stop shop, everything from income planning all the way to taxes and income and investments as a fiduciary investment advisor, to medical planning with Medicare planning and Medicare supplements. We kind of get into it all now. And so what I want to do is I want to go ahead and get this webinar kicked off, and I'm going to do a little screen share here with you and kind of open up a start of our presentation, which is the tax storm is coming. What I want to do is I'm going to stop this share and I'm going to go over here and show you a little video. We're going to start out with this video. It's a 2-minute trailer that is on our website, winstonandcompanies.com. The entire movie is on our website, but I want to start this with a little trailer. This is the trailer for the movie called The Power of Zero. It's a documentary. It's not for the faint of heart, but it's a great start to this event. So let's give this a look. It's about 2 minutes long. To get things started off here, I got to just get my mouse to where I can see it. And why can't I see it? Bring it over, bring it over, bring it over. Can't seem to do it. There we go. I got it. Okay, so let's get it started. And there we go. Sorry about that.
The truth is the federal government has lost control of the budget.
Instead of paying for all the new initiatives, whether they're tax cuts, spending increases, all sorts of things that we like, the government's just putting it all on the national credit card. And as a result, our national debt is just going up and up and up. And it's
What
growing
about?
faster than the economy. And that's when you know you have a real problem.
Everything is going to be squeezed out of the budget. There won't be anything left.
The road we're on is a perilous one that ultimately leads to the bankrupting of our country.
So we have a crisis on our hands.
All Congress has to do for this whole situation to come to a head is nothing. Because every year that they do nothing makes the problem even more unsolvable.
We don't seem to have the ability to get along and find common ground.
Is the government trying to trick you right now? And the answer is very simply yes.
So why is this being swept under the rug? Why is nobody talking about this? Probably because it's not popular.
So I've actually been traveling around the country for about 4 years now, taking the Power of Zero message to different groups.
When you cut taxes on current generations, you are simultaneously raising them on future generations.
It is all driven by spending. Once we have spent a dollar, we've already decided to tax it. The only question is whether we tax it now or we borrow it now and tax it in the future.
So to make up for the liabilities that we're incurring with all the promises we've made in social insurance programs, we're going to have to increase substantially the tax rate and perhaps even double it.
Now, precisely how high it's going to be, you know, there's a lot of room to debate. People will have to pay more tax.
People's retirement savings are at risk of future higher taxes.
Well, qualified plans really do two things. They defer the tax and the tax calculation. Now let that run past your brain real slow.
I'm driven by trying to help as many people as I can avoid this disaster that's going to come up in retirement when taxes go up and the market goes down. What are these people going to do if they haven't planned ahead of time?
Okay, so qualified plans such as 401ks, IRAs, and the like, they defer the taxes and the tax calculation. So let's go ahead and use this to kind of
talk to me about a movie that you were a part of that was really fun to watch.
Hold on.
This is the Power.
Sorry about that. Let's go ahead and jump on into the to the main body here of our presentation. And I want you to take a look here at the first screen, which we're going to put up on the display. And you're going to see the first slide, how to help protect yourself from a potential tax storm. Now, given that little video trailer, what do you think is likely to happen with taxes in our country? Do you think taxes are going to remain the same as they are now? Do you think taxes might go down, actually? Or do you think it's possible that taxes could go up in the future? And it is a defensive mindset to think about taxes in the future. And if taxes in the future do go up, like you saw in that trailer, it is very advisable for us as a fiduciary to make sure that our clients are aware of that and to start talking about things that they can do to protect themselves. You know, so often we talk about volatility in the stock market. We talk about protecting your assets against volatility and the stock market crashing. But, you know, there's not a lot of financial advisors out there talking about protecting your assets from potential tax volatility. Okay. So just real quickly, I'm just going to digress real fast. And I have to show you this little disclaimer. I'm not going to keep this up here long, but Winston and Company's Retirement and Financial Services is sponsoring this event. I want you to see here that right about in the middle, Winston and Company's Retirement and Financial Services and its representatives do not give legal or tax advice. So you might say, well, what the heck is this all about? This event tonight is really a presentation of generally understood and accepted concepts and practices. We do our investment advisory services through Brookstone Capital Management, and we are independent of one another. Brookstone is our registered investment advisor. And at the end of this webinar tonight, you're going to be provided with the opportunity to visit with one of our advisors here in the office and talk about some of the planning and ideas that we talk about this during this webinar. I want you to understand there's no obligation in doing anything, but it is certainly worth your time to schedule a time to come in and visit. So let's get on with the program. You just saw that webinar. It was a pretty powerful message, a message that is so strong. A lot of people have commented after they went onto our website and actually seeked access. All you have to do is go to winstonandcompanies.com, scroll down on the homepage, and you'll see The Power of Zero, The Tax Train is Coming. It's a strong movie. It's about 1 hour long. I say movie, but it's really a documentary. It was filmed in 2018, and it is actually more relevant today than it was in 2018. Interesting how things work out. So tonight's agenda. Where are we right now? How did we get here? These are the things we want to talk about. Where could we go from here? Could your taxes be on the way up? You ask yourself the question. I want you to be critical thinkers. I don't want to tell you what's going to happen because at the end of the day, I don't know what's going to happen. I don't have a crystal ball. But sometimes there's this little thing called intuition, and it says to me that all of this spending has to come at a cost at some point. What can you do to help protect yourself? So you could just, kind of sit in a corner and pull a blanket over your head and say, well, I just don't think anything's going to happen, and leave it, leave things the way they are. We want to encourage you to come have a cup of coffee, have a cold drink. It's getting warmer now. Come have a cold drink and have a conversation with one of us here in the office at Winston and Companies. All of our advisors are licensed advisors, and we'd love to have a conversation with you. So before we go too far, I want to quickly do a little bit of myth busting. All right. Many of us, including myself, have been operating for a long time under the popular belief, or maybe the popular myth, that our taxes will be lower in the future. And one of the questions is will your taxes be lower in retirement? Now, if you think back to when you signed up for the 401k plan and they said, hey, you can make a contribution to this plan and you'll actually get a tax deduction this year for putting the money in. All right. We call this micro tax planning, seeking to optimize tax advantages for the given year that you're making the contribution. Okay. And they said to you that once you retire and you take this money out, the good news is that you're going to be in a lower tax bracket because you're not going to have an earned income. Do you remember that conversation? You remember that concept? It was a sales pitch to get people involved in the 401k plans, which took the place of the defined benefit plan or pension plan that so many of us used to have. Now, if you do have a pension plan, consider yourself one of the fortunate few, okay? So the question is, will your taxes be lower in retirement? Is that true? Is that false? What do you think? Again, be a critical thinker. Engage us, talk to us, come visit with us about this. So it turns out what we're seeing here, because we see retirees every day, it turns out that we don't often fall into a lower tax bracket in retirement. And that happens for a couple of reasons. Number one, we have fewer tax deductions. And with the Tax Cuts and Jobs Act, aka the Trump tax cuts, there are fewer deductions. We don't have the itemized deductions that we used to have. Our homes are paid off. We don't have the mortgage deduction. Our children are grown. They're out of the house. We don't have that deduction. So it's turning out for a lot of retirees that they're shocked with how much of their paycheck is going away in taxes. So future taxes and future tax rates are likely going to be higher for many of you than they were during your working years. Now, historically speaking, we are currently at some of the lowest tax rates in history in this country. So the answer to that question is, will taxes be lower in retirement? It depends, but likely it's going to be false. Now, for those of you that do have a pension, that consider yourself in that lucky minority these days, it is going to be very hard to be in the lowest tax bracket because that pension is always going to be a taxable income to you. If you were taking money from a qualified retirement account, on top of it, you have a lot of your income coming in that's going to be taxable. And the thing that is undeniable is that you have a silent partner in your qualified retirement plan. What I mean by a silent partner is that Uncle Sam allowed you to put the money in there. Uncle Sam, or the Internal Revenue Service. Let's say, I like Uncle Sam, so let's not say Uncle Sam. Let's say it for what it is. The Internal Revenue Service is your silent partner, okay? The Internal Revenue Service set up the guidelines in the 401k plan. Do any of you even really know where the name 401k came from? Well, it really came from Section 23 of the Internal Revenue Code, subsection 401k. And it's the plan that allowed you to put money in, defer current taxes on it, defer current taxes on the growth. But it's also the plan that said you must take it out by the time that you are 70 and a half. Now, you remember 70 and a half is how it used to be. But due to a government plan that came out when COVID started called the Secure Act, S-E-C-U-R-E, it's an acronym that stands for Setting Every Community Up for Retirement Enhancement. Sounds great, doesn't it? I'm from the federal government and I have passed the Secure Act. I'm going to make you more secure. So let me give you an example. The Secure Act is what allowed the deferral to go from 70 and a half before you had to start taking requirement minimum distributions to age 72. And a lot of people, oh, yeah, that's pretty good. I can defer it a little longer and not have to take that RMD. Well, the truth of the matter is that there's a pretty sizable percentage of the population that fails to take it at 70 and a half, and they get hit with that 50% penalty for not taking it. So what do you think is going to happen if you're now allowed to defer it to 72? There's going to be even more people that forget about it and don't do it. And then there's going to be those that do take advantage of it because they know the rules, right? And they're going to take advantage of it in that way. However, the real gotcha in the Secure Act has to do with IRAs, okay, or any type of a qualified retirement plan, a 401k, IRA, TSP if you're a federal government employee, 457 plans, 403b plans, anything that was pre-taxed. Well, the rules before the Secure Act were initiated said that if you died, let's say you're married, well, you could always leave your IRA to your spouse and it would not be a taxable event. But as your spouse spent the money, they would pay taxes on it. But it's after the death of the last survivor of a marriage that the Secure Act really comes home to roost. And let me explain it. It was where, upon the death of the last survivor, the IRA balances could be inherited by the children. All right, the next of line in blood could receive the IRA as an inherited IRA, and they would be allowed to defer growth on that basically indefinitely, with the caveat that they had us take a required minimum distribution at their age. So someone who's 43 years old that receives an inherited beneficiary IRA has a very small RMD, or had, that's the key word, had a very small RMD. Now, because your silent partner is not so silent anymore, the IRS, they changed the rules and said now if the last survivor of the marriage dies and the money goes to the children, instead of it being allowed to be deferred indefinitely with an RMD, the money must be distributed. This is the new rule. The money must be distributed in its entirety from the date of death in the next 10 years. Now, you call it what you want to call it, but as a critical thinker, I call that a tax increase, okay? And so these are the kind of things that we want you to be mindful of. The rub here is that there are no guarantees what those tax rates will be, but your silent partner is the guy that has the ability to change the rules. He moves the goalpost after the ball's been kicked, okay? So it doesn't sound like a very fair partnership, does it? Well, question number one, where are we right now, financially speaking, and how do we get here? Well, with all of this stuff that's gone on with COVID, it has been a print and spend glut. Federal stimulus package. Our economy was devastated, shut down. During this time, Congress okayed trillions of stimulus spending, $2.4 trillion. That's $2.4 trillion. That's only 2.4. It doesn't sound like much. But I'll bet you most people on this webinar today really don't have a good grasp of what $2.4 trillion really is. Okay. They have printed so much money and poured money into this, this becomes a debt effectively, all of which must be repaid at some point, virtually assuring higher taxes in the future. There's even talk of an additional stimulus to come if Congress can agree upon it, and apparently it's coming. And the Federal Reserve has committed to potentially more than $4 trillion in relief efforts on its balance sheets. Okay. So, we have to be mindful of debt. And I want you to know something. The federal government never gave you anything. So, you're going to get this stimulus check. Oh, that's wonderful. I got a stimulus check. But the federal government never gave anybody anything that they hadn't taken from somebody first. Let me say that again. Your government never gave you anything that they didn't take from somebody first. All right. So all that unfunded spending just joins what was already a massive debt of over $23 trillion. Okay. That's the U.S. government was facing at the start of 2020. Now, what I've got up on the screen is this crazy U.S. debt clock. And you can actually go on usdebtclock.org. And it's just a bizarre calculator. It's moving all around. This is a static picture, but it's really bizarre. I don't even know. Sometimes I wonder if it's even real. Okay. But this is the thing that we want to hone in on. The U.S. national debt 24 trillion seven, I don't even know how you say it, okay? 24 trillion plus dollars. The cost, this is the thing I want you to really pay attention to. The cost per citizen is $75,000. But pay attention to the cost per taxpayer. It's probably over $200,000 now. And you might say to yourself, well, what do you mean the cost per citizen, $75,000? The cost or the debt per taxpayer is over $200,000. It's because not everybody pays taxes. There's an awful lot of people out there that don't pay taxes. And I promise you, it's not the wealthy people that don't pay taxes. All right. That's a false narrative. All right. Pretty much anything that you hear from politicians, you flip it over on its back, you cut it in half again, and you get somewhere near the truth. Okay. So if you have wealth and that wealth is before taxes, you can consider that wealth kind of low-hanging fruit, and you will pay taxes on it. There will never be a day when that money will become tax-free unless you take action to make it tax-free. Question number 2, where could we go from here? Could your taxes be on the way up? Well, again, we don't know that, but we kind of think that based on everything that we see going on in the world, this leads us to that second question. Where can we go from here? Taxes might be on the way up. I say there's a pretty good chance they're going to go up. And I want to address Steve Mnuchin's comment about a year ago this month. He says, in different times, meaning non-COVID times, we're going to fix the deficit. But this is not the time to worry about the deficit. This is the time to print more money and create more deficit spending because we have to pass these COVID relief bills and all this stuff. But I want you to notice what Mnuchin doesn't say. What he doesn't say is that we won't fix the deficit. They're going to fix the deficit. It's just when they do it. And when they do it, the taxes probably are going to have to go up, okay? So there you go on that note. I mean, this is one of these things where you see it or you don't see it. And if you do see it, it behooves you to explore your opportunities. And we want you to look at the chat on this. And if you go to the chat, you should see a link to go to our calendar and schedule a 15-minute no obligation consultation to join us, speak with one of our advisors about how to get in there and take a look at our schedule. Come on in, have a cold drink, have a cup of coffee, have a conversation with us about what's on your mind about taxes, if we might be able to help you, okay? Question number 3. What can you do to protect yourself? Well, a lot of people feel that taxes are completely out of their control. It's like, I can't control what Congress does or doesn't do. I'm really out of control with this thing. I'll pay the taxes as they come. Well, with that in mind, I want you to understand something. You do have control right now to help protect yourself, regardless of what the future holds. And the reason I say that is that in a time in which so much feels outside of your control, the reality is that your finances and your retirement that you've spent an entire lifetime building and preparing to use for retirement, you don't have to wait and be a victim of what the taxes put upon you. Those things can actually be completely controlled, and you have more control than you might think over what your tax picture looks like in retirement. And again, with that said, I want to address that chat room. Go in there, click on our Calendly, set up a time to visit with us, because we have been helping more and more clients with this tax-wise strategy, okay? I want to talk about micro view of taxation for a moment. The micro view of taxation is what got most of us, and I included, okay? I, though, will be happy to show you what I did personally to address the tax situation that I created for myself and my family. But I'm doing something about it, and I'll be happy to share that with you. The micro view of taxation is the view that you have learned year after year after year after year when you do your taxes, and you might be going through it right now where your accountant or your bookkeeper or your tax prep person says, did you make that contribution to your IRA? Did you max out your 401k contributions for the year? This is micro tax management. This is where we get in trouble because we're getting a little tiny tax deduction today at a time when the tax brackets are the lowest they've ever been, to put money into an investment that's been growing wildly because of the success of the stock market. What could go wrong there, huh? You got to remember, you don't pay taxes until you take the money out or you reach 72 when you're forced to take the taxes or take the money out and pay the taxes, okay? So the micro view focuses on current year taxes. By contrast, the macro view is the big picture, okay? So we put up these eyeglasses looking out, and you see the big picture in focus of the city, okay, the big city. Basically, we here at Winston and Companies, we can help you focus on a lifetime of tax efficiency through your retirement. Our comprehensive flight plan is designed to basically take your entire retirement picture into account, not just for 1 year, but over a lifetime, and bring them into focus for you. Now, for those of you that are currently involved in our flight plan, you know that it's one of the best plans in the industry. It's the best software. It's a track to run on when you come in for policy reviews and updates. It's a building model. We don't have a new conversation every time. We've set the baseline. We know where we're headed. So for those of you that are on this call that are not existing clients of ours, I want to encourage you to take advantage of our flight plan, because one of the greatest things about it is we pay the cost for it and the maintenance of it. You don't pay for it. It's completely free, okay? But it's our tool. It's our primary offering here at Winston and Companies because it allows us to form a relationship with our clients and give you a very focused and clear picture, like you see on this picture, of where you're going and what you're doing. So some tax strategies to consider, okay? Today, we're going to talk about this big picture that can help you take control and protect yourself. And we're going to talk about these actions that you can take to make these strategies part of a more comprehensive plan. So what we want to talk about is avoiding tax volatility. Now, some of you on this call tonight are new to us, okay? You're checking us out. You're looking at what we're all about. And pretty much our competitors, every one of them you go to talk to, they're talking about your investments. All they talk about is grow your investments. You made 6% last year. We can make you 7% this year. And a lot of the times, because most people have so much money in qualified funds, they're talking about growing your IRA. They're talking about growing your qualified retirement accounts. And you know, you've been kind of trained to think that way your whole life. But you know, they start talking about the investments, the mutual funds that you have in your qualified retirement accounts. They start talking about volatility of the stock market and maybe reassessing how you have that money invested, moving from aggressive to more conservative because you want to be able to hold on to your money and avoid market volatility. Well, they miss the ball altogether because they don't talk about avoiding tax volatility, which is equally important. Believe me when I tell you, it's equally important. And we want to encourage you to click on that link in the chat, schedule a visit with us, cup of coffee, cold drink, come in for a tax diversification conversation, a tax diversification review, all right? Because a lot of people do that and they find it to be very interesting. So I'll talk about the 3 buckets of money. All right. We have taxable bucket, we have the tax deferred bucket, and we have the income tax free bucket. Let's talk about the income taxable bucket. In that bucket lives pension income, short-term gains that you make. So, you know, you make a $3 profit on your $200,000 account at the bank. They send you a 1099 for the $3 of interest that you earned, and you got to pay taxes on it. Stock dividends. This is something that the Biden administration is looking to try to increase the taxes on. The stock dividends, capital gains, step up in basis, things like that. Interest that you earn on your CD. So again, I'll use the example. Let's say you have $100,000 in a CD and you earned $3.75 of interest. You're going to get a 1099 for that. Dividends and taxable distributions from mutual funds in non-qualified accounts. That's taxable income. Now, you know, I'm being a wise guy, right? I'm joking about the rate of return on some of these accounts, but you know something, I'm really not joking about it. It's terrible how low interest rates are. So, you know, that becomes investors' dilemma. Where do we put the money that can be safe? All right. So again, I encourage you, reach out to us, 602-456-1928. And come in, schedule a time to visit with us. Go online to winstonandcompanies.com or click on that little link in the chat room and schedule a time to come in and have a conversation again with one of our licensed advisors. You'll be glad you did. The second bucket is the tax deferred bucket. And oftentimes this is the bucket that's bursting at the seams for many of our clients that we see. They'll have the bulk of their money in traditional 401ks, traditional IRAs, 403bs, 457, TSP if you're a federal worker. They'll have a lot of their money in IRA annuities or savings bonds. Now, the reason that bucket is so fat or so heavy is because there's a pipeline to it called your paycheck, and it's oftentimes just tapped every week, every 2 weeks, every month, however you're paid. And people get into systematic investment, dollar cost averaging plans. And, you know, we see people, they'll bring in their 401k statements and they've been investing in these things 20, 35 years. All right. So it's not uncommon to see that. That's why a lot of people have a lot of money in there. The last bucket is usually the emptiest bucket of them all. It's sad to say. And in this bucket is Roth IRAs, tax-exempt municipal bonds, and life insurance. But the one thing that's important to point out about this bucket is if you have tax-exempt municipal bonds, that income is not truly tax-exempt because it is used in the calculation called provisional income, which is used to tax your Social Security. All right. So that's just another little area if you're kind of concerned about how to integrate Social Security into your tax strategies. Click on that little link in our chat room. Come in and see us. Again, I try to make this as simple as possible. Come in, have a cup of coffee, have a conversation, have a cold drink. Go on to our website, winstonandcompanies.com. We put in the upper left-hand corner a link, and it just says our process. And we laid it out. First appointment, second appointment, third appointment, and so on. How we do things here. We try to make it very simple. And, you know, you'll find that we don't deviate from that program, not even a little bit. It's how we do things here at Winston and Companies. And it's the right way. And therefore, it's kind of the only way. So we do the right thing over and over again. And that's what leads to our successful clients. All right, so there's the three buckets: income taxable, tax deferred, and income tax free. What we really try to stress here is if you saw that trailer, or if you go onto our website, winstonandcompanies.com, scroll down on the homepage, go in there and watch that movie or that documentary, The Tax Train is Coming, you're going to understand this slide right here. Because what we're suggesting is that you start moving taxable income, tax deferred income, which is going to be taxable income. The question is at what rate? Lower, the same, or higher? Be a critical thinker. We ask you to consider moving it all the way from left to right and get as much money into that tax-free income bucket as you possibly can. Why? Because if taxes in the future, say, double, well then, 2 times 0 is still zero. And even if Congress changes the law, and you did this at a time when this was the law of the land, and you took advantage of Roth conversion or moving money into a LIRP program, LIRP, LIRP program, you'll be grandfathered. It's been the way it's been done for years and years and years. Grandfathering. Look it up if you're not familiar with it. All right. So action steps. Get a completely free tax diversification review. Come in and have a conversation with us about how we can help you diversify your taxes. Okay. If you always did what you, excuse me, I'm going to just take this back. I'm going to say what got you to retirement probably is not going to get you through retirement. Okay. AARP did a survey, and they showed that the number one fear, the number one anxiety of retirees in this country is the fear of running out of money. My own mother and father have that same fear. Okay. But unfortunately, I was one of those kids growing up that the parents, they didn't talk financial with the children. Okay. And that carried right on through. And my mom and dad are 89 and 87, and they live back in Buffalo, New York. And to this day, they don't talk to me about finances. We encourage you to talk to your children. We encourage you to be open and have a conversation about what's going on with your finances. It helps you sleep better at night. I promise you. Take advantage of lower tax brackets. Come in and have this asset conversation, not conversion, still a conversion, but I like to say, come in and have this asset conversation with us. Come in and talk to us about what you have and what it will look like if you leave it alone. We have this fantastic software that we can get reports run, whereas if you leave your IRA the way it is now with the current tax code in place, what it'll probably wind up costing you in taxes over a lifetime versus if you convert it, what it will look like. And it's fantastic software, and it's very eye-opening. Yours for free if you schedule a time to come in and see us, okay? You'll find that to be a fantastic value. The Tax Cuts and Jobs Act, which is also known as the Trump tax cuts, it's expiring at the end of 2025. Basically, December 31st, 2025, taxes are going up. We know that. It's built into the tax code. And all Congress has to do, you heard Dave McKnight say it in the trailer, all Congress has to do for taxes to go up is nothing. And it's scheduled to happen because the Tax Cuts and Jobs Act sunsets December 31st at midnight, 2025. All right, take a look at this next slide. What happens is today on the left, you're looking at the tax brackets for married filing jointly. And you're going to see that most people today, most of our clients, they fall in that 22% tax bracket, quite frankly. They're earning anywhere between $80,000 and $171,000. So if you just look over to the right, if you're in that, let's say you're in that $150,000 range today, you're in a 22% tax bracket. But when the taxes sunset and the rates go up and you're earning $150,000, you go right from the 22% bracket to the 25% tax bracket. Now, that's a tax increase. I also want you to take a look at the 24% tax bracket today. All right, the current 2020 tax rate. Well, if you earn as high, you can earn as high as $326,000. Folks, $326,000. Come over to the right. If you had $326,000 of earnings, it would put you down there in the 33% tax bracket. You go from 24 to 33% tax bracket in that threshold. Now, a lot of you might say, well, I'm not earning anywhere near $326,000, but you're missing the point. The point is that if you convert your qualified retirement accounts and you do it where you pushes your MAGI or your modified adjusted gross income up You can go as high as $326,000 and never penetrate the 24% tax bracket. Folks, that is the tax deal of the century. So speaking of tax deals, I don't know if you all know or recognized in the video trailer. If you want to watch that again, you can watch it on our website. Ed Slott, America's CPA, America's IRA expert. I've known Ed Slott for quite a few years now. We were at a meeting with Ed not so long ago, and he actually asked me, he says, Winston, when's the best time to pay your taxes? And I kind of hesitated for a second because I didn't expect him to ask me the question, frankly. And he says, come on, Winston, that's not a trick question. He says, the answer is when taxes are at their cheapest. I said, okay, yeah, that makes sense. So think about it for yourselves. Does it make sense to continue to grow your IRA if taxes are going to go up? Because you see, you not only assume tax rate risk when you do that, but if the money's invested in the stock market, which also happens to be at all-time highs right now, you're incurring market risk and tax risk at the same time. Now, even if things work out and the stock market stays robust, all those gains are probably just going to be given away to taxes later on, okay? That's the fear a lot of people have. So really an interesting thing, if you want us to run your own numbers, if you want us to build out a plan for you, call us at 602-456-1928. Come on in and see us. Schedule an appointment by clicking on that link in the chat room or visit us online at winstonandcompanies.com because we'd love to see you and help you build a plan that's perfect for you. I want to give you one example. Dave and Sarah, they have $170,000 of income today. They're in a 22% tax bracket right now, okay? If they just continue to make $170,000 and time clicks on by, well, that same $170,000 in 2026 isn't going to buy them as much because of inflation. So that $170,000 is indexed. It's actually worth less money. But look at the taxes on it. The taxes went from 22 to 28%. So what would you rather have? Tax-free or taxable? And you can do something about it. The decision is really yours. And we here at Winston and Companies, any one of our licensed professionals can help you build a plan, our flight plan, that will help you get on the road to doing the right thing for those dollars. So again, we're here to talk about converting assets that are always taxable, such as an IRA, to assets that are never taxable or the tax-free bucket, okay? Think about it. When will the money in your IRA ever not be taxed? When will the money ever not be taxed? Well, it's going to be taxed, and it's going to be taxed by you. It's going to be taxed by your spouse. It's going to be taxed on your children. And, you know, another thing we hear from a lot of people, John, one of the advisors here in our office, he was working with a gentleman the other day, and the guy actually said to John, I'm going to leave my IRA to my children. That's what I'm going to do with my IRA. I don't need it for income. I'm going to leave it to my boys. Think about that. Is that a wise thing to do? Is that really a wise thing? Now, the worst thing you could do is leave your children your money, especially if it's an IRA, because really most of it's not your money. I mean, I shouldn't say most of it. A good percentage of it's not your money. We want to talk to people about converting that money into tax-free assets and potentially even be able to use it for long-term care, which is a sorely underserved marketplace in this country, sorely underserved. Long-term care planning can devastate an estate, okay? So, or I should say failure to do long-term care planning can devastate an estate. So why not turn that fully taxable bucket of money into tax-free money? Action step number 2, get a completely free asset conversion review, all right? Or get a completely free asset conversation review. Come on in and talk to us. That's all we do. We talk. And we try to determine what is the appropriate risk tolerance for you, both on your investments and from a tax standpoint. That's why we're offering a free asset conversion review for you. Again, go to our website, click on the link in the chat, schedule a time to come in and see us. Don't be shy. I'm reading a book right now about hesitation and what's the word for it? Where people, they put things off indefinitely. It's one of these, procrastination. I don't know why it wouldn't come to me. Procrastination is a terrible thing. We don't have tomorrow. None of us have tomorrow as a guarantee. Take care of business today while you can and while it's on your mind. Because something, most people spend more time planning on sitting on that wall in Hawaii, like you see in this picture, a vacation, in other words, spend more time planning a 2-week vacation than they do their 20 or 30-year retirement. But the clients that we have on this call, they know differently. They've taken the time to plan. And what's so funny is that they've engaged in our flight plan process and they're still watching our webinars, which is fantastic. For those of you that are not clients, we really want to encourage you to join the family, because we really are a family run business here at Winston and Companies. And our clients really are everything to us. That's what we exist for. That's what we're here for. Enjoy financial independence with a written retirement income plan. We'll ask people oftentimes, what is your retirement plan? And they'll say, well, I have a 401k plan. And we'll say, well, how do you get income from a 401k plan? Because the answer is you don't. You actually have to close it out and move the money somewhere else so that you can start drawing income from it. So a 401k plan really is no plan at all. What it really is a defined contribution plan, okay? A defined contribution is this way. A defined income plan is that way, and they're not congruent, okay? So a 401k plan does not equate to an income plan. Come to Winston Companies for a written retirement income plan. Our brand here is called the Flight Plan. And, there's a whole story on that on our website about my aviation history and completing flight plans before flights, but it's a very relevant tool. So here at Winston and Companies, we basically are a one-stop shop. We deal in high-level tax planning, the macro tax planning. That's what we're talking about here. Estate planning, which is wills, trusts, powers of attorney. And I'm going to tell you something. Most people do not have proper estate planning done. And I'll share very briefly kind of a sad story, but it's a very true story. Happened here in our office back in November of last year. One of our greatest clients referred her brother to us. And he was a great guy. He was retired from Boeing out in Mesa, helicopter plant. And he brought over quite a bit of money from his retirement accounts. And, it's an event. It takes time to get all this stuff done. And he was tired and, all this COVID stuff going on. And he wasn't necessarily feeling all that great. And we got down towards the end of the year and I said, you really ought to consider getting life insurance and getting your estate plan set up, because you own a couple of homes and they're owned by you. They're not in your trust. And, people die. And when people die, assets that they don't have in trust are caught up in probate, or worse yet, intestacy, which is dying without even a will. And you can probably imagine the rest of the story is that this gentleman, which was he was a great guy. We really enjoyed him. He passed away over the holidays. And, he wanted to kind of put off getting some of this stuff done until after the holidays and take a break. And it was a real sad story because it really affected his children. It affected his sister and family pretty dramatically. And I'll tell you right now, it had a very dramatic impact on us here at Winston and Companies. We made sure every one of us, we got out double time and we got with our attorneys and updated our own trusts and our wills. And I'm going to share something with you on this note. My son here, he works here at the firm. He's one of our licensed advisors and he's 25 years old. And one of the things that Courtney, our attorney, said, she said, Winston, you better get Shane to get his powers of attorney set up. She goes, because he's not your little boy anymore. And if something was to happen to him, he's not married. She said, you have, as the dad, you have no say-so in his care. Okay. So she recommended that we get powers of attorney, that Shane get powers of attorney set up so that we could act on his behalf as his parents still, in a legal sense, if something ever, God forbid, happened to him. So we're in the process of doing that right now. The third area we work with people, and it's one of our largest areas, is income planning and getting that base income set up so that when you get into retirement, you have a three-legged stool of guaranteed sources of income. That's something that a lot of our clients know, the three-legged stool story. And then we are a fiduciary investment advisory firm, okay? We handle investment portfolios. We are not traders. We are not a get-rich-quick scheme operation. We're not going to take $10,000 like a woman we spoke with last night and turn it into $1 million. Not going to do that. What we are going to do, though, is as fiduciaries, we're going to build portfolios for you that are going to perform over time that's appropriate for your risk, okay? And lastly, healthcare. You know, it's amazing how many people do not have proper long-term care insurance, just don't have it. Oh, it is. I heard that that's expensive. I heard that that was junk. No, it's a real ticket to bankruptcy to not have proper long-term care insurance, okay? We also work with retirees on Medicare. You know, most people have got no clue how original Medicare Parts A and B work. They don't know what a Medicare supplement is. They don't know what a prescription drug plan is. Okay, these are all things that are incidental and important to people that are retiring. But, you know, they were busy in their career. They don't know this stuff. That's why we can help you. And it's kind of like, you know, if you buy a car, you want to buy a car that you know has been put through the Highway Safety Institute and it's been crash tested, okay? Because people want to know before they put themselves or put their loved ones in a car and travel somewhere, they kind of want to know that that car's been crash tested. They want to know that it's been proven to be safe, all right? So I want to contend to you that what we do with our flight plan is we kind of crash test your portfolio before it gets in a crash to make sure that it's going to provide the risk tolerance for you that you need and the protection and take not only the risk out of the stock market, but take the risk out of future taxes as well. That's worth crash testing. So again, come in, see us. We had someone on the lunchtime webinar that we did today at noon. They called in about, a half an hour later and said, I want to do that crash test thing you talked about. So call it what you want. Crash test is fine, but it's our flight plan and we love to see you. So here's what a flight plan is. It's a written retirement income plan. You come into our office, you see it on the big screen, it comes to life. Again, it's a living, breathing program, and it's a tool that you will use for many years to come because it's our goal to build clients, lifelong clients. We're going to talk to you about, when do you want to retire? And when you retire, when will your paychecks start? Where will they come from? They're not going to come from a 401k, I guarantee you that. How long will they last? All right. Classic example, appointment I had this morning at 10:30. Couple came in, they got right at $1 million in a retirement plan, 401k plan. Okay. And I said, what's the plan for the 401k plan? Well, I don't know, but we figure we want to take 10% a year from it. And I said, oh, so you're planning on dying young and not needing the money any longer, right? And they're like, well, what do you mean by that? And I said, well, $100,000 from 10% about $1 million, $100,000 a year. You say, yeah, we think that'll be just about fine. And I said, okay, but what happens if you take $100,000 and the stock market goes down and your account loses, let's say 30%? How are you going to take $100,000 the next year and the next year and the next year? And we showed them how long that money was going to last. Well, when they walked out of our office, I guarantee they weren't happy about the fact that they weren't going to get $100,000 a year income, but they certainly understood why it wouldn't be wise. And you know what? They found a program with us that they were much more comfortable with after they learned about how long that money would last, how the money will grow over time. Do you want income in retirement, or do you want IFCOM in retirement? There's a big difference between income and IFCOM. So we have to talk about growth. And action step number 3, promise you this is the last action step. Come in and see us. Get a written retirement income plan. The whole process laid out upper left-hand corner, our process on winstonandcompanies.com. Give us a call, 602-456-1923. 19 or 23, and come in and see us. Putting it all together, what we'll do is we'll do a tax diversification review with you. We will do an asset conversion review with you, which really is an asset conversation review. And we will provide this written retirement income plan known as the flight plan. So we're here for you. We really are here for you. We want to try to offer, it's our way of giving back to the community. And we actually just are putting together a deal with Ottawa University to start getting back in the classroom and spreading the gospel. And we're going to be going into a movie theater to put on live seminars again. In fact, this presentation we're going to be doing live probably next month at Harkins and maybe at even AMC. We're kind of excited about it. So picture a day when you're out there having the freedom to travel again. You don't have to wear that mask on your face. You can get out there and be free. Picture a day and you can relax and feel safe. We want to be able to give that to you. We want to be able to make sure that you understand it. It works for you while you're retired. It even works for your family after you're gone. So pick your preferred time and visit with us. Click on that link in the chat room. I see a few of you have already done it. That's actually pretty cool that we could see that. Just got another one. All right. Well, that's neat. Okay. So feel free to do that. I'm glad to see that you guys are doing that. Pick a time, come see us, visit our website. This is an actual picture of our office building. We're 2400 North Central Avenue. We're right downtown. We're actually midtown. We're just south of Thomas, north of McDowell. We're literally across the street from the world famous Durant's Steakhouse. And we're right on the light rail stop. Very conveniently located office. And one little secret that we have over every other location in downtown Phoenix is we have free parking, free covered parking in our building. So when you come to see us, you don't have to get a ticket and get it validated and all that stuff and feel like you got a clock ticket on you. So, hey, thank you very much for your time. It's been my pleasure to visit with you tonight. It's great to see so many of these names. I see Debbie on there. I see Bob. I see Marianne. Hey, it's great to see you guys. We'll be talking to you soon. Thanks again for joining us. I'm going to go ahead and sign out on this thing. So if I'm rough with the transition, it won't be as bad as it was in the beginning. I apologize about that. Y'all have a great night, and thanks again for joining us.